Kwame's stomach growled like an angry beast as he pressed his back against the cold concrete wall of the overpass in Accra. At 15, his ribs showed through his torn Manchester United jersey, a fake one he'd found in a garbage dump 3 months ago. The shirt still smelled faintly of the original owner's cologne, a cruel reminder of the life he'd never known. Thunder rumbled overhead, promising another night of sleeping wet. The other street children had claimed the dry spots under the bridge hours ago, leaving him to huddle in the shadows where the rain would inevitably find him. His fingernails were black with dirt, his feet bare and cracked from months of walking on hot asphalt and broken glass. "Mama Ama," he whispered to the faded photograph tucked inside his shirt pocket, "I'm trying to be strong like you taught me." The photo showed a beautiful woman in a nurse's uniform, smiling beside a small boy with bright eyes. Before the accident. Before everything changed. Before he became invisible to the world. A sudden crash shattered the night's quiet rhythm of traffic and distant music from the nightclubs in OSU. Metal scraping against concrete, glass exploding, then silence. Kwame's head snapped toward the sound, coming from the embankment below the bridge where the road curved sharply. Most people would have ignored it. Car accidents happened daily in Accra, and getting involved often meant trouble with police who saw street children as criminals first, victims never. But something pulled at Kwame's chest, the same instinct that had made him share his last piece of bread with the sick baby last week. He crept to the edge of the overpass and peered down. In the dim glow of a distant street light, he could see a sleek black Mercedes twisted around a concrete barrier. Steam hissed from its crushed hood. The driver's door hung open, but no one was moving. Kwame hesitated. Rich people in expensive cars usually meant danger for boys like him. But then he heard it, a weak voice calling in Twi, "Help me, please, anyone." His bare feet were already moving down the rocky embankment before his mind could stop them. The woman was halfway out of the car, her white silk dress torn and stained with blood. In the darkness, Kwame could see she was middle-aged, with elegant braided hair now matted with dirt and what looked like glass fragments. Gold jewelry glinted at her neck and wrists, more wealth than Kwame had ever seen in one place. "Madam, are you okay?" he asked in English, then switched to Twi. "Can you move?" Her eyes fluttered open, struggling to focus. "My chest, can't breathe properly." Her voice was cultured, educated, the kind of English that spoke of international schools and foreign universities. Kwame could smell alcohol on her breath, but something else caught his attention, the metallic scent of blood and a strange chemical smell he couldn't identify. This wasn't just a drunk driving accident. The woman's pupils were dilated, and her breathing was too shallow. "Madam, we need to get you to a hospital," Kwame said, supporting her weight as she tried to stand. She was heavier than his malnourished frame could easily handle, but determination made him strong. No hospitals," she mumbled. "They'll find me there. Someone put something in my drink at the party. They wanted me to crash, to die." Kwame's street-smart instincts kicked in. Poisoned at a party, left to die in a car crash. This woman had enemies with money and connections. Getting involved could get him killed. The smart thing would be to walk away, disappear back into the shadows where he belonged. Instead, he pulled her arm over his shoulder. "My name is Kwame. What's yours?" "Akojua," she whispered, then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed against him. Carrying an unconscious woman through the backstreets of Accra at midnight was like painting a target on his back. Kwame avoided the main roads where police might stop him, instead navigating through the maze of slums and construction sites he knew like the back of his hand. Twice, groups of older street boys approached, eyes hungry at the sight of Akojua's expensive jewelry. Kwame's reputation as someone who minded his own business had always protected him, but tonight he was breaking that rule spectacularly. A small boy, one of them called Gold Teeth Flashing. "What you carry there?" "She's sick," Kwame replied simply, not stopping. "I'm taking her to get help." "She get plenty gold," another observed. "Maybe we help you carry him." Kwame's grip tightened on Akojua's wrist. "Touch her and I'll scream so loud every policeman in Accra will come running. You know they've been looking for reasons to clear us all out." It was a bluff. The police were more likely to arrest Kwame than help him, but the boys hesitated long enough for him to disappear down a narrow alley. Dr. Mensah's clinic sat wedged between a tire repair shop and a drinking spot in Nima. It wasn't much to look at, peeling paint, a handwritten sign and bars on the windows, but the old doctor had treated Kwame's infected foot last year without asking for payment. Kwame pounded on the metal door until a light came on upstairs. "Who is that?" Dr. Mensah's voice called down in GA. "It's Kwame, doctor. I have an emergency." Dr. Mensah's expression shifted from annoyance to shock as he opened the door and saw Kwame supporting the elegantly dressed woman. He quickly ushered them inside, laying Akosua on his examination table under the bright fluorescent light. "What happened to her?" he asked, checking her pulse. "Car accident, but she said someone poisoned her drink." The doctor's hands worked quickly, checking her pupils, listening to her heart, drawing blood. "You're right about the poisoning. This looks like rohypnol combined with something else, maybe oleander extract. Very sophisticated. Very expensive. Will she live? If we can flush her system in time." Dr. Mensah looked at Kwame seriously. "Son, do you know who this woman is?" Kwame shook his head. Dr. Mensah picked up Akosua's purse from the floor, pulling out an ID card. His face went pale. "Akosua Osei-Bonsu, CEO of Golden Gate Industries. This woman is worth over $2 billion. She owns half the gold mines in the country and has contracts with every major construction project in West Africa." Kwame stared at the unconscious woman whose life he'd been carrying in his hands. A billionaire. The richest person he'd ever been near, let alone touched. "Doctor, if she's that important, won't people be looking for her?" "The right people and the wrong people both," Dr. Mensah said grimly. "Someone tried to kill her tonight. They'll want to finish the job." As if summoned by his words, the sound of car engines echoed from the street outside. Dr. Mensah quickly turned off the lights. "Back room now," he whispered. Through the barred window, Kwame watched 3 black SUVs circle the clinic like vultures. Men in expensive suits but with the cold eyes of killers stepped out, speaking into phones and scanning the area with flashlights. "Check every building," one of them ordered in English. She couldn't have gotten far in her condition. Dr. Mensah had hidden them in his back storage room, where Akosua lay on a mattress connected to an 4 drip. She was conscious now, though weak, her eyes sharp despite her condition. "They found the car," she whispered. "They'll search every clinic and hospital in the city." "Who are they?" Kwame asked. Akosua's laugh was bitter. "My own board of directors. Led by my late husband's brother, Nana Osei. They've been trying to force me out since James died last year. Tonight was supposed to be my final board meeting, permanently. But why kill you? Can't they just vote you out? Not while I control 60% of the shares. But if I die in an accident, my shares go into a trust they control until my daughter turns 25. She's only 16 and studying in London." Kwame processed this information. A teenager not much older than him, about to lose her mother to greed. It reminded him of his own loss, though his family had had nothing worth killing for. The sound of breaking glass came from the front of the clinic. Dr. Mensah appeared in the doorway, grabbing a bag of medical supplies. "They're inside. There's a back exit through the pharmacy next door, but we need to move now." Akosua struggled to sit up. "I can't, still too weak." Without hesitation, Kwame scooped her up in his arms. She was lighter now than when he'd first found her, the 4 fluids having helped but not fully restored her strength. "Hold on to me," he said simply. The next few hours blurred together like a fever dream. Dr. Mensah led them through a network of connected buildings and underground passages that Kwame never knew existed, routes used by smugglers and black market traders to move through Accra unseen. They emerged in Jamestown, the old colonial district where narrow streets and crumbling buildings created perfect hiding spots. Dr. Mensah had contacts here, people who asked no questions and owed him favors. Mama Corker's compound looked like any other rundown residential building from the outside, but inside, it was a fortress. The elderly woman had been running a safe house for decades, protecting everyone from political dissidents to women fleeing domestic violence. "Akosua Osei-Bonsu," she said when Dr. Mensah introduced them, looking the billionaire up and down. "I know your mother, Efua. We were in the same women's group in the 1980s, fighting against the military government." Akosua's eyes widened. "Mama Corker? My mother spoke of you. You helped hide the university students when they were being arrested." "Same work, different decade," Mama Corker replied. "Money doesn't change the fact that powerful men still try to destroy strong women." For 3 days they stayed hidden while Akosua recovered her strength. Kwame learned more about wealth and power in those 72 hours than in his entire life on the streets. Akosua made phone calls to allies around the world, moving money through Swiss banks, activating lawyers in London and New York, and slowly building a counterattack against the people trying to steal her empire. But it was during the quiet moments that the real connection formed. Akosua asked about his life, his family, his dreams. Kwame found himself telling her about his mother, the nurse who had died treating patients during a cholera outbreak. About his father, a teacher who drank himself to death from grief. About the relatives who had taken the family's small savings and thrown him onto the streets. "What do you want to do with your life?" she asked one evening as they sat on Mama Corker's rooftop, looking out over the lights of Accra. "I used to want to be a doctor like my mother," Kwame said. "But that was before everything. Now I just want to survive each day." Akosua was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Survival is just the beginning, not the end goal." On the fourth morning she made an announcement that shocked everyone. "I'm going to turn myself in. It's the only way," Akosua explained to the group gathered around Mama Corker's kitchen table. "I can't hide forever and they'll eventually find us. Better to control when and where the confrontation happens." Dr. Mensah shook his head. "They'll kill you the moment you step out in the open. Not if I do it publicly with witnesses and media present. I've been in contact with investigative journalists in London and New York. They're flying in today with camera crews from CNN Africa and BBC." Kwame felt his stomach drop. "What about me? I'm the only witness to what really happened that night." Akosua looked at him with something that might have been regret. "That's the problem. You're either my greatest asset or my greatest liability, depending on whether you're alive to testify." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Akosua would hold a press conference at the Golden Gate Industries headquarters, announcing her survival and revealing the assassination attempt. She had enough evidence, recorded phone calls, financial records, and Dr. Mensah's medical report, to expose the conspiracy. But Kwame would have to remain hidden until the moment was right. If Nana Osei and his co-conspirators were arrested, he could come forward safely. If the plan failed, "I won't let anything happen to you," Akosua promised, gripping his hand. "You saved my life. Now I'm going to save yours properly." The Golden Gate Industries building in Accra's financial district was surrounded by media trucks and crowds of curious onlookers. From his hiding spot in a building across the street, Kwame watched through binoculars as Akosua emerged from a convoy of police vehicles, flanked by officers and walking with a confidence that belied her recent near-death experience. She was dressed in traditional Kent cloth, her hair wrapped in a colorful head wrap, a deliberate choice that connected her to Ghana's heritage and sent a message about her values. The contrast with her usual Western business attire was striking. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," her voice carried clearly through the speakers set up on the building's steps. "For days ago, members of my own board of directors attempted to murder me in order to steal my company and the livelihoods of 10,000 employees." The crowd erupted. Camera flashes exploded like lightning. Kwame could see reporters shouting questions and security guards forming tighter circles around Akosua. She held up her hand for silence. "I have evidence of this conspiracy which I am turning over to the police and the Economic and Organized Crime Office today. But first I want to tell you about the person who saved my life. Not a police officer, not a security guard, not a powerful politician, but a 15-year-old homeless boy named Kwame." Kwame's breath caught in his throat. She was going to expose him publicly. He wasn't ready for that level of attention, that level of danger. "This boy found me dying in a crashed car, poisoned and left for dead. Instead of stealing my jewelry or walking away, he carried me for miles through the night to get medical help. He asked for nothing in return. He expected nothing in return. He simply did what was right because he has a character that my own family members apparently lack." The crowd was riveting now, hanging on every word. "I stand before you today not just as a businessman, but as someone who has learned the difference between wealth and worth, between power and character. And I want to use both my wealth and my power to honor the character of this young man. Effective immediately," Akosua continued, "I am establishing the Kwame Foundation with an initial endowment of $100 million. This foundation will provide full scholarships, housing, healthcare, and mentoring for homeless and disadvantaged children throughout Ghana and West Africa." Kwame's legs nearly gave out. $100 million. In his name. But she wasn't finished. "Furthermore, I am adopting Kwame as my son and heir. He will inherit 50% of my shares in Golden Gate Industries, making him one of the youngest billionaires in African history when he turns 18. The crowd exploded into chaos. Reporters were screaming questions. Camera crews were pushing forward. Even from across the street, Kwame could feel the shockwave of this announcement. Akosua raised her voice above the noise. "Some of you will say this is too much, too extreme. You will question whether a street boy can handle such responsibility. But I ask you this, which shows better judgment, my board members who tried to kill me for money, or this boy who risked his life to save a stranger?" She paused, looking directly at the camera. "Kwame, if you're watching, come home. You have a family now. You have a future. And you have work to do. 6 months later, Kwame stood on the balcony of Akojua's mansion in East Legon, looking out over the city where he'd once slept under bridges. He was wearing a school uniform, not a fake Manchester United jersey, but the crisp white shirt and navy blue trousers of Ghana International School, one of the country's most prestigious institutions. The transformation hadn't been easy. Learning to live indoors, to eat regular meals, to trust that the bed would still be there tomorrow. These things took time. The media attention had been overwhelming, with reporters camping outside the house for weeks and documentary crews wanting to tell his story. But the hardest part had been learning to believe in himself as more than just a survivor. Akojua joined him on the balcony carrying 2 cups of tea. How was school today? Good. The chemistry teacher says I have natural talent for understanding molecular structures. Kwame accepted the tea gratefully. I've been thinking about what you said, about survival being just the beginning. And? I want to study medicine, like my mother did. But I also want to study business like you do. The foundation is helping hundreds of kids now, but I think we can help thousands more if we do it right. Akojua smiled. You're already thinking like a CEO. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over Accra. Somewhere in the city, other homeless children were settling in for another night on the streets. But now there was hope and help, and a foundation that bore the name of one of their own. Akojua, Kwame said, using her first name as she'd insisted he do since the adoption became official. Do you ever regret it? Everything you gave up for me? She looked at him with the fierce love he was still learning to accept. Kwame, I didn't give up anything. I gained everything. You saved my life that night, but more than that, you reminded me what life is actually worth. In the distance, the lights of the Golden Gate Industries building glowed against the darkening sky. Tomorrow, Kwame would visit the foundation offices, reviewing applications from street children across Ghana who dreamed of something better. Next year he would start his university studies, splitting time between Ghana and London. And someday he would take over $1 billion empire. But tonight, he was simply a boy who had learned that kindness could change the world, and that sometimes the most unlikely heroes emerged from the darkest places. As the first stars appeared overhead, Kwame whispered a prayer of gratitude to his mother's memory, and to the God who had guided him to the right place at the right moment to save not just Akojua's life, but his own destiny. The University of Ghana graduation ceremony buzzed with excitement as families gathered to celebrate their children's achievements. In the VIP section, Akojua Osebansu watched with pride as her son, for that's what Kwame had become in every way that mattered, walked across the stage to receive his dual degree in medicine and business administration. At 20 years old, Kwame was already being courted by international corporations and medical schools. The Kwame Foundation had grown to operate in 12 African countries, having lifted over 50,000 children out of poverty and homelessness. His story had inspired books, documentaries, and countless young people across the continent. But perhaps most importantly, he had never forgotten where he came from. After the ceremony, as photographers captured the moment, a young reporter asked Kwame what advice he had for other homeless children. He thought for a moment, his hand instinctively touching the faded photograph of his mother that he still carried in his wallet. Never stop believing that your life has value, he said simply. Even when the whole world treats you as invisible, remember that one act of kindness, given or received, can change everything. Sometimes the person you save might be yourself. As the crowd applauded, Akojua placed her hand on her son's shoulder, both of them knowing that the boy who had once slept under bridges had indeed become exactly what she'd seen in him that first night, not just a survivor but a savior, not just a victim of circumstances but a creator of hope. The homeless boy had saved a dying woman, never knowing she was a billionaire. What she did in return shocked the world, but more importantly, it proved that true wealth isn't measured in money, it's measured in the lives we touch and the love we dare to give.